G'day trendsetters, how you going? It's Easter Monday today. It's overcast, I suppose, is how you describe it. We had a few little light showers overnight, but today's the day where we plant garlic. I've just been separating the bulbs, separating the corms from the bulbs for the last 10 or 15 minutes, and we've got about 2/3 of a bucket here ready to go. So I'll show you how, just a little tip on separating the cloves from the bulb, and then we'll run down to the garden bed and we'll put these little blokes in. Today's the day. I've been sitting here for about the last 10-15 minutes breaking up all these cloves of garlic I've got here, and got a nice little stash at the moment, and the aroma is divine. The only thing I want to show you here though is you need to be careful not to tear the base out of the garlic, so you want to make sure you try and keep a part of the original root system. You don't want to tear the bottom out. It's the main thing you need to be careful of. It's not something, these are fairly dry and they're breaking away quite easily. It's just something you need to be aware of when you're separating your cloves from the bulb. Just keep an eye on what you're doing and make sure you're not tearing that. There's little bits of root system all around there, because you're going to need them. I've still got half a dozen bulbs here to separate, so after this we'll head on down to the garlic bed and the magic will begin and we can plant. I'm pretty sure I've got a patch at home prepared as well, so I'm pretty sure between here and there I've got more than enough to keep me going. I've got a nice big fat one here. These are all ones I've grown from last year, but I think this one's going home and will get used in the kitchen. So one for the cook and the rest for the gardener. I did mention in my initial video in this series, this garlic doesn't have a name, except it was listed as an Aussie organic garlic in the store when I bought it. It just also turns out to be one of the most fragrant and tasty garlics I've ever come across, which is why I'm going to so much trouble to get a decent crop this year, so I can share it around, because it's just a marvellous garlic. Oh, look at that. That's just fat as. Beautiful. So, as you might be able to tell, it's blowing, well, I wouldn't say it's blowing a gale, but it's quite a strong wind today. I wouldn't go for a breeze. So here we are down in the veggie patch, or the bed where I'm planting garlic. We'll be spacing at 150 mils apart and 300 mil between the rows. That's a little bit wider than you'll see recommended quite often, and I've chosen that A, because I've got the space, and B, I think the closer you plant them together, the smaller the bulb you'll end up with. So because I've got the room, I can space them a little bit further apart. If you're a little bit stuck for room, then by all means maybe back to let's say 100 mils apart and maybe 250 mil rows in between the rows. I have watched videos where people plant them 75 centimetres apart all around. I think that's too close, but doesn't seem to be any real hard and fast rules. But anyhow, I'll bring the other camera down, and I've got a little pine sleeper here which I'm going to use for a straight row and a trowel, which basically I'll just use to mark the row. Once I've done that, I'll roll the board over once or twice, and because I've measured my trowel, and from the end to the plastic handle is 150, to the end is 300, so all I need to do is butt up from end to end, and then I can mark my next row. And hopefully that will keep me fairly in line and square with, because I'm only in a small rectangle here. Wind's blowing dust everywhere, this is horrible. The reason I plant in rows is because it will be a lot easier to get a weeding tool, a little Dutch hoe or the Bergen and Ball weed slice, up and down these rows and keep them weed free. Garlic doesn't like competition of any kind, which is again why I'm planting them a little wider apart. And we're planting the fat ones according to popular wisdom. There is absolutely tons of little skinny ones here, and I'm going to do a couple of rows of the skinny ones just to find out. I'll mark the rows and to let me know that that's the row of skinny corms, and just see if there's any difference between planting a little corm and a fat corm in the end results. Remains to be seen. But anyhow, in this bed here, I'll plant mainly as many fat ones as I can, and back at home I've got another bed prepared much similar to this bed, and that will be, I'll plant a couple of rows of skinny ones in there. So let's get to it. If you're prepared well enough, you can, with a bit of practice, you can just, my soil's been walked on a fair bit, so it's a bit compacted. I'm going to have to use the trowel and just measure my 150 between. Now, depth. Oh, that's the other thing. Pointy end up. So the bit you tore away from the root system of the bottom of the bulb, it goes back in the ground. It's a pretty bit of common sense. And planting depth, I like about, let's say, an inch below the soil surface. So if you can get your bulb in deep enough that it's covered by at least an inch of soil, then I think we're doing well. I don't cover the rows until I've finished, otherwise I'm bound to miss something. This is quite hard here. It's just a little bit of soil compaction from being walked on. That won't matter. The garlic is quite hardy. And get another one in there. So that's from there to there. And again. That's basically the job. I've probably got another 15 odd rows to go. But really, that's all there is to it. Hop, pointy end up, Stuart. Cover the row over. Oh. And mark out the next row. Oh, you can keep this wind. That's about it. I'll keep going. Like I said, I've probably got 15, maybe even more rows to go. Give them a really good drink after I've planted it all. It's all the nutrient and fertilisers are in there that they'll need. And fingers crossed we'll have a bumper crop. Let's see, late October, mid to mid-November, maybe even late November, depends on the weather, where mate and I are discussing the virtues of a cold winter in Toowoomba, which we probably haven't had for a while, but if we get a cold one, it'll slow things down. Anyway, if you found this interesting or informative at all, please, I'd love it if you subscribe, like and share the video around, get the word out. Any questions, leave them in the comments. Any suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Keep it all interesting for everyone concerned. But anyhow, that's it for now. I'll do a couple of updates through the season and keep you informed with how the garlic's going. Cheers, thanks for watching.